Welcome to Yelling Into the Void, a podcast discussing and exploring topics in World of Warcraft. I'm Tevin, joined as always by Scott, and it's time for us to open up that can of wait and see, the C part, like you said last week, Scott. And I don't know. I'm going to preface this episode with Scott and I are always trying to be optimistic, but we are at the point where we need to be pointing out a lot of things, and there's still not a lot of things, or there are still some things that are not great about beta, but there's also things that aren't as terrible as I feel like they're being made out to be too.
No,
So,
it's the game's dead. It's over. Sorry to tell you that. It's just over. And it's an unplayable game. No one can play it. Nobody's playing a beta at all. It's dead. It's over. It's non-functional. Bring back the add-ons. Worst decision Blizzard's ever made. Etc. And so forth.
I feel like you spent a little bit of time on Reddit.
I regret that immensely.
But all right, well, to start off, Mythic Plus has been released on the beta along with max level servers and other end game activities. This doesn't include all the Mythic Plus dungeons, just all of the rerun dungeons, which is kind of weird to say that because Pit of Sauron's one of those, which is ultimately it's a new dungeon, but it's a returning dungeon.
It's brand new, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's there, and it's allowing us to actually finally get a feel for what the game is going to be, because the class design, the UI changes, the philosophy changes, all of that is intended for the end game. Everybody always knows with World of Warcraft, it's you level up to then be able to play the game. That's always been the meme for WoW. It's always been the meme for a lot of MMOs. I guess it hasn't always been the meme for
Not
WoW.
always.
That's the reason why people like Classic, right? So, but yeah, anyways, we're getting to dive into that a little bit. Scott and I have both taken a look at beta.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess before we get into the beta stuff, we do have to talk about the one thing that Scott and I said wasn't happening last week, ended up happening to North America as well, which we kind of set out a preface saying, even though it's not said to be happening, it very well still could be, but the Brutosaur, the in-store Brutosaur, can be bought again. They're doing the same limited time offer bullshit as they did last year, and it's I don't know, it kind of pisses me off because obviously it's not that limited time if you're going to keep bringing it back. So just remove the fucking thing and move on with our lives instead of doing this predatory marketing bullshit. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. There's no sugarcoating this. I don't like it. It sucks. That combined with, I think they announced in Classic, they announced that the anniversary servers were shifting to the Burning Crusade here in a couple months. And along with that, they announced another new Burning Crusade pack that you can pay extra money. Just like they did when Classic originally switched to Burning Crusade, right? They had this pack of exclusive mounts and stuff you could buy. Well, they're doing it again for the anniversary, sir. And it's just it just comes off as so greedy, man. I mean, between that and then the Hearthsteel stuff we talked about last week, it's just man, it's just not a good look, guys. and I know, let's be clear here, none of the developers that are actually working on the game, the people that are pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into making this game as good as it can be, are the ones making the decisions like this. But it just kind of sucks. I don't like it.
Yeah. The other part about this is it is conveniently placed on November, the middle of November, which I don't know if people know what comes up in about a month and a half, but you might be thinking maybe I'll go buy somebody something for maybe a holiday that's popping up in a month and a half. And hey, conveniently, there's all this new stuff on the Blizzard store. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that really pisses me off, and it's showing greed for nothing other than greed. But I don't know what you're going to do about it. Their end game is to make as much money as they can off the game, and they're seeing this as a way to do that. So,
yep. So we can just move on and pretend like it's not a huge problem, and just not acknowledge it ever. And that's good, right?
I guess. Yeah. Just if you're pissed about it, don't buy it, I guess is the end goal.
Yeah, I mean,
Speak with your wallet.
like, let's be clear here. I will never spend $90 on a mount ever. Like, I could be a millionaire and I would still not spend $90 on a mount because that's in my mind. That's a waste of money. And I like no shade to the people that have, but it's just not for me.
Mhm.
So none of this really affects me. Like even the Hearthsteel stuff doesn't really affect me because I wasn't going to do it in the first place. It just sucks. And I think we talked about last week, like the biggest risk of it is not what they're doing with it today, but what they will be tempted to do with it tomorrow. And yeah, that's it. All sucks. All of it sucks.
Mhm. Well, let's jump into some of the beta stuff, Scott. This is you and I wanted to test this beta because there's going to be things that we couldn't do previously that we can now do in beta on day one instead of having to wait for add-ons to be updated for beta and then put in either GitHub that you have to go grab each individual file or each individual add-on, or whatever, because the add-on like WoW Up and CurseForge only like half-assed work with beta in the past.
Yeah.
So sometimes you had to like go manually find the new versions of the add-ons or the versions that were good for beta and bring them in. So I don't know. I think we have to start with the UI changes because that's I think the top of the contentious points. I do kind of want to open this up with a thing that Wowhead just posted today. It was a comment that Ian actually had made in that, and this is the Cliff Notes version, but essentially he was saying it was never his intention for people to go into midnight with no add-ons. And the fact that a lot of people are worried that that's the state that they're going to have to be in is a failure on their part. And the fact that anything that does any sort of like modification or anything that doesn't use in like real time combat data calculations, if anything like that was in messed up by the changes that they've done, he said that that was just collateral damage and they are doing everything in their power to revert that as of right now. That doesn't mean it's going to be done before midnight. That just means they are continuing to look at it, and they do not plan to ever have the functionality that we had with like LVUI or anything like that in the base UI. Because to quote Ian, he said there's way too many niche options that the options panel would just be absolutely cluttered with things that people probably would never look at. And it's already kind of like that. So I don't necessarily disagree, but he is admitting a little bit of fault here. And I think for a lot of the anti-Blizzard people right now who are really mad at them about this add-ons thing, I feel like this is a little bit of a nod to say we were a little bit heavy-handed and we are trying to fix the things that we said we weren't going to break.
Yeah, but is that their reaction to this? No. No. We're I'm a little depressed. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, so last week, once again, right after we finish recording, Ian drops this giant post like outlining their entire philosophy with the add-on stuff. Something that they arguably should have done maybe like 2 months ago. Once, we talked about when they did the midnight announcements and how they really kind of bungled the announcements because it was so segmented and separated amongst many different content creators. I think the same thing happened with this add-on stuff where they announced it, they talked to different creators, they did interviews with different creators and things like that. But they never created like let's define our philosophy from the top down on this whole thing. They should have done that at the beginning. They didn't, but they're doing it now, and they're definitely in kind of a damage control mode because people are freaking the hell out about this stuff. And so yeah, Ian makes this post last week. He then I think just came out today. I believe there was a video with was it PC Magazine? I forget which site it was, but they did
I don't remember which.
They did like a long 20-minute interview where it just allowed someone not only to ask follow-up questions to his philosophy post, but also just like honestly pulling questions from Reddit, concerns and things people said on Reddit. He was bringing to them so we could let Ian respond. And then, yeah, to your point, later in the day, he also literally took to Reddit and made some clarifying posts on things as well. I mean, they are trying to kind of shore up and fix their communication problems with this whole thing. And the reason I'm so sad is because I just don't think it matters. I like you go like I read this philosophy post from Ian that is like, I think very well written, very articulate, outlines all the decisions to a point where I understand everything that they did and why they did it. Like the big thing that they've been talking about is why now? Why are we doing this now? Like when we originally announced this, we said we were going to kind of slow roll it. And what they basically said in that post is like, look, something this big has to come in an expansion. It is just the type of thing that we do in expansion. We're not going to midway through an expansion cycle completely change how our design philosophy of classes and encounters work and do the add-on turn off at the same time. So it was either going to be 2 years down the road when The Last Titan comes out, or it was going to be now. And punting it 2 years down the road means, again, for another entire expansion cycle, doing the kind of creation of encounters the same way they've been doing. And I don't think they wanted to do that. And based on his post, they got to a point where they felt they could make the midnight timeline. They could do this and do it in time for midnight. Now, whether or not that's true, I mean, we'll see, right? We got a few months left. We'll see. But that's their philosophy, and that's why. So, like, I just, there was all these people like Blizzard lied. They said they were going to slow roll it, and they didn't. They lied. I was like, no, they just changed their mind. Like they had this is our design plan, and then they came up with a new plan, and like that happens, whatever. But I just like, it's just people are so mad, and like I want to be clear here. I'm seeing what is probably a very small amount of the total people that play this game echoing this sentiment. I'm sure there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there that think the design philosophy, the whole add-on pruning thing is a good thing, think it will be ultimately good for the game, and maybe just have a healthy amount of skepticism about whether or not this is going to work in the short term. That's not the people I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about the people that are just like the doomer, like, this is fucked. I went on beta and I literally couldn't play the game. It's impossible to play the game. It's broken. The game's going to be dead. This first season's going to be awful. Like, and just like, there's nothing anyone can say to these people that are going to stop that. There's nothing. So I think it's fine to have a healthy skepticism. I am a little skeptical myself after having played on the beta. But even, I mean, one of, like, I'm going to here in a minute list like some of my biggest complaints with the UI as it is right now. Even like the top thing on my list was fixed today. So like, they're working on it, man. We're working on it. It's not going to be perfect. I will see what it looks like at launch. It could be it could be a messy season. I don't know. I'm just a little depressed that like we're so like doomer about this whole thing, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem is I want to jump into things that you and I think need to be fixed, because I think a lot of people get mad at you and I because we are very optimistic about this, and they don't quite see it the same way, that's a fair criticism. If you don't have to always agree with Scott and I. But
Incorrect.
The thing is, if you are like, Blizzard is the most incompetent people ever, why do they do all these things? They're so stupid. Like, I don't understand why you necessarily play the game.
This game?
Like, I was watching Soda Poppin stream the other day, and he was like, I love classic WoW, but I freaking hate Blizzard. They're so stupid. They can't do anything right, and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, then why do you continue to play WoW? Like, you play other games.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel very weird. Like, I feel like a lot of people have a lot of time in this game, and so they have that like cost sunk fallacy. And we've talked about this in the past, where it's like, I feel like you should look at it as the time that you're currently spending instead of all the time you had spent. But yeah, I don't know. Let's just dive into things that need work still. I'll start with my list, Scott. I think you've got more opinions on this as well.
Sure.
But my number one is, I don't really love the damage meters that they have. I think that they need to have a lot more customization as far as like visuals, because I don't love the way that it looks right now. And that being said, I also wish that I could change how numbers are displayed, because when it shows me 1,100 and blah 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 K instead of 1 point something M, it's really annoying to me, which is ironic because until you get to 10 million of something in RuneScape, it does the same shit and it doesn't bother me in that game. But I think I've just like, I'm so used to it in that game.
Well, I mean, that is the central thing here, right? Like, we are so used to things the way they are right now and the way they look right now that the majority of people that use add-ons use details, and they have details the way they like it and the way it looks, and they're used to that. And no matter what, it's going to look different. And that's hard. It's hard. Like, the first time I hopped into beta and started playing it, I mean, there was a learning curve there. I was getting used to things. Things looked different, and it was uncomfortable, and I didn't like it. But it's a change. Like, this is a change. So yeah, I agree with you on the damage meter. I'll let you talk. But yeah, I mean, this is the problem, is we're so used to the way it looks that it looks different, and that's scary.
Honestly, that's a lot of my complaints. Like, with the damage meter, I don't like the way that it looks. I would like to be able to customize it more. The same thing with the nameplates. Like, my absolute biggest gripe with the nameplates right now, outside of, I think you're going to touch on this, but the like nameplate stacking is still a little fucked up. Ian said that they're still really working on that even after the change that they pushed in today.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest gripe with the nameplates is I can't have the fucking name of the mob inside the nameplate. It has to be above it. And I hate that. Like, that's wasted room that could be something else, but instead it is the name of the mob and their like health percentage, instead of it just being inside the nameplate, which would just make it so much easier. I hope that they add that customization feature.
I hate to tell you this, but you can definitely do that in the game.
Can you?
Yeah.
Where?
I mean, like, I have the beta open right here. So, I mean, like, if you go to nameplates, it's just like they have the style. They have like the drop down for the style, and it's the default that has it above. But if you go to like block, it puts it in the.
Okay. Well, I was fucking around with it and I couldn't get it. It took me a while to even get the names to show up. Sure. I didn't realize that I had to set it to all NPCs for all the names to show up instead of just the one I was targeting. So yeah, there are a lot of things like that. I'm glad that that's a customization feature, because that was one of the biggest fucking complaints I had about the nameplates. It was just a bunch of wasted space.
I mean, like, look, I still don't think they look great. And again, part of this is I'm very used to Plater, and I'm very used to how my Plater nameplates look. And I'm not even talking about functionality. I'm not even talking about like what you can do in Plater that you just can't do and will never be able to do now. Even if Plater releases a Plater version that works for Midnight, which I believe they have, it will not be able to color plates so you can, certain mobs are colored certain things. So like, that is functionality that they are by design taking out of the game, right? But even outside of all that stuff, it just looks different. And I don't really love the way it looks. Like, the odds are very high for me that I will use whatever version of Plater ultimately is released, or I think Platinator is the other one that has a Midnight beta workable version right now. The odds are that I will end up doing something like that, and that's okay, right? That's what you said. Like, they are adding things back right now that allow visual customization of these things, and will continue to do so over the course of the beta. So, the big thing I think with the nameplates, the big like actual like they need to fix this problem, is the thing you alluded to, is the stacking thing. So if you haven't played on beta right now, nameplates are not really stacking on top of each other properly. Like, if you do like a big pull in a Mythic Plus dungeon, like we did Algathar Academy, and you know how big some of the pulls are in that place, they just all kind of clump on top of each other, and it makes it very, very hard to select an individual. Like, if you see something's casting something that needs to be kicked, it is very difficult right now to like target that particular mob by clicking on their nameplate in order to kick them. Luckily, as a healer, I don't have to worry about that at all anymore, because I don't have a kick. But So that is something that they released a patch about today, and you are correct. I don't think it fully fixed the problem, and it will need to be iterated on. But that's a big thing. That is 100% a needs to be fixed before launch problem. Like the game cannot launch with the nameplates not stacking properly. So yeah, that's gonna have to be fixed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, along with the other nameplate things, there's this. We have to do it. Like, it feels like it comes up every week. Fellowship has this toggle that you can set for. There's actually two. There's one where if you hit tab, it will prioritize mobs that are casting and can be interrupted.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that you can check where if you don't have threat, it will prioritize that mob.
Oh, I didn't even know that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. It would be cool if WoW had something like that, but I think that kind of goes against the philosophy that WoW's going for right now, where it's like that is kind of like the game is a little bit playing itself for you. So I don't know, but that might alleviate some of those issues.
I think that's a kind of borderline. Like I think that one's subject to interpretation of whether that violates their design philosophy or not.
I don't have much else about the nameplates. I think the cooldown manager still needs a little bit of work. I think that it's actually like fairly decent now. I think there's a lot of people who are still pretty unhappy with it, but I don't know. I was using it today, and it seemed to be perfectly fine for me. I had my UI set up so that I could easily track my like duration buffs. I had it set up so that I could easily see like the stacks and things that I need to maintain. So like, I don't know. It seems like it's kind of filling that gap of like a weak aura pack that I would normally have. I haven't played around with any of the secondary resource stuff yet. I still don't know how that quite works in the default UI, and I have a feeling that I'm probably going to have to use an add-on to track that better. But
like mana or resources, and I'm using
focus
the Sensei class resource bar add-on. That's what I'm using on beta, because there is still not a like there is no way I can get like a separate mana bar in the default UI right now, which I think they should probably solve that problem. There should be some way to do that without needing
just
an add-on.
add it as a part of the cooldown manager.
Yeah.
The same thing with like arcane charges for arcane mages and like all of that shit. Just add it as a part of the cooldown manager. I think.
I like the cooldown manager just fine. It is at this point fairly similar to a weak aura pack, although obviously it cannot do all the things that weak auras could do. Like there is some limitation on like glows and alerts and that kind of thing. But it does quite a bit. I have a small complaint on kind of the look and feel of it again. Like there's no way in the default UI to like center things. So like my utility bar, which is like the smaller one that goes under like the big important bar, like it does one row and then it has a few things on a second row, and none of it's centered in a way that I just think it looks kind of ugly. And so I wish there was I think this is something that's going to be solvable with an add-on. An add-on will be able to, I think, improve the look of this thing a little bit. But I think they should try to make it look as nice and effective as possible in the default UI as well. So I think they should do that. I do have a small problem with the cooldown tracking part of it too, or not the cooldown. It's the tracked buffs part of it. There's weird spacing stuff with it.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So like in a weak aura, you have like this long list of track buffs that will go in here, and it will like center and build off of it, right? So if there's nothing up there, there's nothing. If one pops up, it'll pop up in the center, and then it'll like build out from the middle. The current thing doesn't do that. It like you put it on there, it has a spot for it. So like this is where my wild go or where my life bloom is tracked. It's going to be right here. This is where my clear casting proc is tracked. It's going to be right here. And so there's all this kind of dead space between them. And I think that's a little weird. I hope that they can fix that. But other than that, man, like, I don't know. It has the things I care about on it. They're easily viewable. I can see the cooldown on them. There's some clunkiness, like for some reason, Flourish, which is a passive ability now, is still on my my add-on thing, or my what is it called? I just on my cooldown manager. Like Flourish is a passive ability now. It's still on my cooldown manager. It has no reason to be there. I think that's just a holdover from live, that they haven't updated the cooldown manager to remove some of the changes in abilities quite yet. But no, I don't mind it. Other than like some aesthetic stuff that hopefully I'll either be able to fix with an add-on, or just they build that functionality into it itself. I have really no complaints about the cooldown manager at this point.
Mm-hmm. Are you able to remove Flourish on your own?
Yes, I think so. Let me double check to make sure that's the case.
I didn't know if you're able to remove the like things they default on with. I would assume you could. I wouldn't see why not.
Yep, I can. Yep.
Okay, Scott, the one thing that I do want to talk about that WoW has never really solved, in my opinion, is their action bars. They're the same action bars that we had in Dragonflight when they did this whole UI overhaul. I don't necessarily hate them, but I do kind of hate the inability to modify like mouse over bars or hidden. Like, it just seems very rigid in comparison to anything else that we've been able to do. And I think this is one of the areas where they will not fix it, and it will have to be solved with an add-on. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on like the ability bars.
Yeah, they're ugly. I mean, this is maybe a thing that I could just get used to eventually, but you know, I would like to live in a world where I don't have to get used to it. And so yeah, I think there's hopefully going to be plenty of opportunity that just an add-on can fix up some of the aesthetic issues I have with the action bars and make them a little bit prettier, and yeah, the idea that you can hide them. Because yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like that's how I play the game right now. Is my action bars that actually have like keybinds to them are like shoved at the bottom of my screen and very, very tiny and essentially invisible, so I don't have to look at them. And frankly, because I'm such an idiot, an old man, so I don't inadvertently look at them, because I found when I first switched to using weak auras, when I came back to this game and learned that weak auras were a thing, I still had my action bars like in the center and big like they are in the default UI, but I also just had my weak aura above that. And I found that I was just still like looking at my action bars too much. And so like I like consciously like made them smaller, and in some cases even just made them hidden, just so it's like I would force myself to stop looking at them. So I would like some functionality like that for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. As far as like the other changes for the UI, I don't hate them. Like I said, the cooldown manager, it's working pretty well for me. I haven't done a dungeon yet, but I feel like the boss mods seem like they're fine. If you like a timeline, you can easily do that. The only thing that I felt weird with the timeline is you can't shorten it.
Yeah.
You can only scale it. So the only way to make it smaller is to like scale the whole thing down, but you can't like just shorten the duration on which they're shown, which I felt was really odd, because the default one takes up like 75% of the screen.
It's pretty big. Yeah. I mean, the timeline thing, like it's again, it's fine. Timeline is not my preferred use of displaying this information, but I think is a DBM or Bigwigs has already made an add-on version that will turn that into bars like we're used to.
Yeah.
So again, this is not I think a game breaking problem.
But I also think you can just make it bars too, potentially.
Did they add that? I didn't. I thought originally they did.
They said they were going to. I don't know if it's in or not.
Boss warnings. No, it just looks like boss timeline. Hide countdowns for other roles. Only show countdowns of the timeline that are relevant to your currently assigned group role. Hell yeah.
You might be able to, like in the edit mode, change it. I don't know.
I know. We can look at that later.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, I think that that's fine. I think that that's doing the thing that a lot of people would get the weak aura to import in from big wigs or DBM anyways to do, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can enable the ability to hover over it and get a tooltip for the ability is also really neat, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as somebody who does a lot of like raid leading and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it really easy to like, okay, this ability is coming up. Here's what we need to do. And then if we wipe to it, I can go look at what it was. Like I know exactly what ability came out and I can go look at the tooltip,
Yep.
or I can hover over it the next time it comes up. Like, I don't know. I find that very cool. I'm happy with that. As far as the other parts of the boss mod go, we'll see. I think that I'm really going to have to test that out in rating more than Mythic Plus, because Mythic Plus, like, bosses can be complex, but they're not normally complex because the number of mechanics they have.
Yeah.
They're complex because the overlaps.
And there was some raid testing today. I watched a little bit of it. I did not participate in it. I don't think the new boss mod timers were activated for these boss testing, so they didn't actually get to test that part of it at all. I think they are working in Mythic Plus. I saw them in the. I've run one dungeon. I did a 2 Algathar. So I'm not an expert at this either, but.
So I guess the last thing, Scott, UI wise, is just like generally, how are we feeling about their ability to deliver on what they said they were going to deliver on by March when we think this is going to be released?
Yeah, I kind of, I mean, there are definite problems. Like one of the other things we haven't talked about is party frames, and I know that's not something that you care about at all, but
oh yeah, true.
As a healer,
they just pushed an update for that too, didn't they?
They did, and they're not bad. I mean, they're fine. There's a couple complaints I have with them. Like for instance, they've added a new icon for out of range, and it's like an eye with a line through it, and which is like in the middle of the frame, and it looks really gross. I don't like it. When I first saw that icon on the preview thing, they said I thought they were adding a line of sight tracker, which would be amazing. like that the game just tells me when someone's not in line of sight for me, so I know I'm like trying to mash a heal button on them, it's not working, and I don't understand. Oh, they're just but no, it's just an out of range tracker. And I think like in the base UI right now, out of range is shown via the way it's been shown forever, which is just the frame is just like darker, right? That's how we show it in live, and that is how everyone looks at it, and we're used to that. And please, Blizzard, just go back to that. Like, I don't like the icon. It's distracting. It's in the very middle of the screen. I don't like it. The other problem I'm having with the party frames right now is, as far as HOTS go, you can display all the HOTS I have, but you don't have a lot of control over the size of like individual HOTS. Like I cannot make like Life Bloom bigger than all the other ones, so like it's easier to track. You also cannot like tell the game where you want an individual buff or debuff to appear on the screen. Like you can organize like, I want debuffs on this side, I want buffs on this side. You can do it like that, but you cannot say, I want Life Bloom to appear here and always here. I want Rejuve to appear here and always here. And the problem with that in like a hectic group or raid situation is it makes it a lot more difficult to track your individual buffs. You have to like, when you look at the party frames, you have to like be paying attention more. Cause like if I know Life Bloom is in the upper right corner and always in the upper right corner, I can very easily glance in the upper right corner to see how much time is left on it. But if I know Life Bloom is going to be somewhere in this mix of 5 debuffs, and it might be the first one, it might be the third one, it might be the fifth one. If I have to do that, that's a little bit more complicated. So I hope they add a little bit more flexibility around what you have access to where you have access to put those things. Again, that's a thing that maybe they will build that into the base UI, or maybe they won't, but I hope they allow an add-on to do it. If not, the game does not have like a whitelist and blacklist feature at all right now. Like there is no way to tell the game, I don't want to see certain buffs or debuffs. There is a way to tell it, I don't want to see certain debuffs. There is a button you can click that says only show me debuffs that I can dispel. But as a healer, I actually don't want to click that, because if the debuff is doing damage to someone and I can't dispel it, I want to know that, because I want to be able to heal them. But there is no way of saying like sometimes there's like like certain hero classes that will just like proc buffs on someone, and that will show up on their frame, and it will like look like a debuff. And so it's very distracting when I'm like, just like the tank has this thing that's procking on them over and over and over again. And it keeps popping up on their frame, and it makes me think they've got a debuff, but it doesn't. So I, the whitelist blacklist thing is a thing people have been asking for, like basically from the beginning of alpha. I don't know if they're ever going to allow that level of flexibility and control. I think that starts pushing up against the border of the limit of what they want to do. That being said, like, granted, I only did it 2, and I do think we're going to talk about the dungeons themselves in a bit here. Like, I was able to track stuff. Like, like the idea that it's not functional and not usable, that the party frames are not like, this is inexcusable and not usable, I think is just a false idea. Like, I don't have as much information as I did on live. A lot of that's by design. Like, gosh, the amount of things I did with those frames on retail is like on a live server is just absurd. Like, and I'm just not going to have that functionality, and it's going to take some getting used to. I don't love the look of them right now. I still haven't gotten them to a place where I really like how they look. But again, that's just an aesthetic thing. I don't know. Like, I was able to track buffs. I was able to track my hots and know when to refresh certain things and heal people. So I was able to function in the game. Are they perfect? No. And there's some stuff they need to work on, and I hope they do. But yeah,
I am a little worried because some of the things that you were just explaining, I think kind of fall in like hand in hand, being both like combat knowledge, but also aesthetic things, like essentially bouquets from Voodoo, right?
Yep.
Like being able to organize your buffs in order of importance, and then those will always be shown at the beginning of the list. I feel like that's something that should be allowed with an add-on, but also it's using real-time combat data, so I don't know if it will be able to be allowed with an add-on. But it feels like something that should be able to, just like off the cuff, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it does push right up against the idea of like add-ons. We don't want add-ons to give you a competitive advantage, which has been the thing that they've been saying the last couple of weeks. Is their like core philosophy is we don't want anyone to feel like they have to download an add-on to get an advantage. It should be just, if you want things to look different aesthetically, you want things to look more pleasing, that feels like it would give you an advantage. But I do think it's something that they should put in the base game. And I'm that's difficult because, as you said, one of the things they're trying to do in the base game is they want to make this as easy to set up as possible. And like, that's the thing about the cooldown manager as compared to weak auras. Like, weak auras are incredibly complicated. Like, I mean, most people's interaction with them is just like, I go out, I download a weak aura pack and I drop it in, and that's easy. But like, if you're actually like making a weak aura, it's not easy to do. Even if you understand code and you know how this kind of stuff kind of generally works. Like, I remember I use other people's weak aura packs, but there were certain things that I liked, I wanted myself. Like, I think the weak aura pack I was using I wanted to highlight Grove Guardians when I had 3 stacks, just because I kept not hitting one when I had all 3, and I wanted the game to like push me to remind me to do that. And so I had to like take their existing weak aura and find a way to glow it only when I do that. And it's just like, that took a while to figure out. And I don't know if they want their base UI to have that kind of thing where you're like building like custom variables and doing like that kind of thing in the game. That's really complicated, and I don't think they want to do it. So I don't know how they fix the problem of what I'm saying, which is like, I want Life Bloom to be here. Can you make Life Bloom here, or can you make Life Bloom a little bit bigger because I care about Life Bloom more? Blacklist, whitelisting, I don't know. This might just be like a growing pain thing where I'm just going to have to adjust and get used to figuring that out and being more attentive.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm going to be interested to see where that line is drawn.
Yeah.
I feel like that Blizzard has tried to make it very clear that if you're doing anything that deals with combat at real time, that is a no-go. And I think that things like this, where it's like pushing right up against that boundary, are going to be the areas where I'm interested to see, like, where does that actually lie in their philosophy.
I do wish someone had in these multiple interviews that Ian has done over the past few weeks, I wish someone would have just come right out and said, is whitelisting and blacklisting buffs and debuffs against your game design philosophy? And I'm not even talking about granting add-ons the ability to do it. I'm talking about just like building it into the game at all. Is that against your new world order? And maybe the answer is yes. And if that's the case, it's like, okay, well, I guess we're just going to have to deal with that.
Well, back to the original question, Scott. Sorry, I completely forgot about the unit frame changes because those came in like relatively recently.
Yeah.
So, do we think they're on track? Do we think that this is going to achieve what they said that they were going to achieve by the release of Midnight?
I'm hesitant to say. My limited experience with the beta right now says I think they can do it. But then, like, I mean, you get people out there that are dooming that says absolutely no way. So I'm hesitant to like conclude definitively. My experience, again, as a healer, and I've only played the one healer, my experience as a resto druid doing three zones worth of leveling before this week, and then doing one dungeon yesterday after the servers came up, is it feels like it's pretty close to what I would want. Definitely some stuff that needs changing, definitely some tweaks, all the things we talked about. But I feel like these are things that either we can get a definitive answer on if they even want them in the game, or things that I think they can probably manage to pull off prior to the release of the game. That is my feeling. I mean, maybe that's overly optimistic. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I would say my feeling is relatively similar. I think the one caveat that I would throw on top is they do, in fact, shore up a lot of the collateral damage that they have with visual add-ons. Because, man, I just don't see them adding the ability to modify the things that I want to modify in the base UI.
Yeah.
In time or at all, even. So I really want to be able to change those things around, and I want that on launch, ideally. So I hope that gets shored up. They said that they're working on it, but like I said earlier, working on it doesn't mean in time for Midnight launch. So
yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me now is like the game. Like, let's say they don't make any improvements to the UI as it exists right now, which is ridiculous. Of course they're going to, but let's say they don't. Will dungeons and raids be playable in, the other half of this equation that we really haven't been able to talk about until yesterday, essentially, is what does the design philosophy on encounters look like in this new world order? And I think that kind of leads us into the next segment you want to talk about, which is the dungeons themselves. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten a lot of opportunity with him yet. I will say my limited experience with Algothar Academy was... So I don't know if you remember Algothar. The mobs around Veximus and the pulls around Veximus had a lot of casters in them and a lot of very deadly casts happening all at the same time. My experience, even in a 2, was that it did not feel like they've made any fundamental changes to those mobs. It still felt like there was a little too much stuff that needed to be kicked or stopped going on. And I don't know if that's just like I mean, part of the difficulty of measuring this is like, with add-ons, they basically wanted to rip the Band-Aid off and say, we're going to start with no API connection and then build stuff back in as people get in and test it. And we see, oh, we really should let this happen. We really should let this happen. I do feel like with Mythic Plus, their strategy right now is we're going to leave some of the design. We want to basically see how much people can handle. So we're going to start with the hardest level and see, with the UI changes, with the add-on changes, with the class changes, how much of this can people handle? And then, so after this week, it's like, oh, they could not handle this. There's too much. And so we can then pair it back from there. That's what it felt like they were doing.
Yeah. So I guess the thing that is interesting to me with the dungeon changes so far is I went in under the assumption that we made classes easier so that we would make the other content more difficult and require more thought. And reading some of the changes, it feels almost like we're not doing that. Which is the big like question mark that I have right now. Like it's almost like the Metal Gear Solid whenever they see you, like the just question mark pops above their head. Yeah, that's how I feel right now, because I thought we were making things like that easier so that we could make the encounters themselves harder. But like, I'm just gonna call it out specifically because it's the one that you brought to my attention. But Croth in Algathar Academy, you had this like, and before, the way that you would deal with this boss is you would communicate with your healer, your team, and you would say, okay, we're going to go to this many stacks at this point. Like, you're going to need to be using defensives, and then we're going to dunk the ball. Which this is just something that happens. The boss reaches full energy. You got to throw a ball on one side, and then that cancels and restarts the cycle. And anyways, that's kind of like been completely removed because you're not getting a stacking damage taken debuff anymore.
Yeah.
Instead, what happens is the boss just starts a channel and you just have to dunk as fast as possible. And that's it. Like, there's no thought or planning that goes into it. It's just dunk the ball.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's almost exactly the opposite of what I assumed that they were going to do with encounters going into midnight.
Yeah, I mean, very limited sample sizing, but I agree. Like, I really liked. I know a lot of people don't like Croth as a boss. I really liked that boss for the exact reasons you're saying, that you have such control over how the fight goes. Like, you can approach it with different strategy. You have this slowly ramping vulnerability thing that you can deal with very easily whenever you want to, but you actually benefit by prolonging the dunking as much as possible, because when you have to dunk into the other goal, that's when it starts all the wind blowing around stuff. And so that is the most difficult part of the encounter, when you're being blown around and having to dodge tornadoes while everything else is going on. And so the general strategy was, let's prolong or delay that portion of the fight for as long as possible. We want to make it as little of the boss's health is left as possible when we get to that phase of the encounter. And you basically did that by, allowing the vulnerability debuff to stack up as high as it could possibly go and you still survive it. And that was cool because you got to like feel it out and communicate and say, and like plan defensives and know when you're going to do all these things, and even kind of try to align your cooldowns with the damage amp that comes from dunking it into the fire one for the first time. And yeah, that's all gone. It's just a very kind of bog standard boss where instead of the big AoE that hits you, giving you a vulnerability debuff, it just puts a dot on you that the healer has. It's just like AoE damage that a healer has to heal through. And then boss gets to a certain percentage, ball comes out, score ball, fire stuff you have to dodge. Then boss gets to a certain percentage, balls come out, you have to score ball, then wind stuff comes out, and boss will be the exact same every time. And yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I said I wasn't pretty disappointed by that. So
I do think, though, like, they are making other changes that are good, because Veximus is another boss in there that was awful, and awful mainly because there were really bad overlaps that would have to happen, or that would happen if you didn't execute like what would be assumed to be a failure of a mechanic, but would then offset this bad overlap so that you don't have to deal with it anymore. Yeah. Essentially, the boss shoots out these balls, and in the old version of it, you have to soak them, and if you don't, then it adds to his energy, and then when he gets full energy, he does this ability, and you don't want that to overlap with bombs he puts on people. But they changed the timers in which that shouldn't happen anymore, or it should happen less frequently. And when he gets an orb now, it's just a damage. I'm assuming it's just a big nuke on the group.
Yeah, it just does a lot of damage. Yeah.
Instead of adding to his energy, which this is like, it's funny to complain about this because it's almost the exact same as the thing as like Croth was, but for like, in my opinion, Croth's like difficulty and mechanics and like being able to plan and do that stuff was something that made the boss fight more interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas the one with Veximus just makes it more annoying.
I mean,
I guess that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, the Veximus one was just bad design because it's punishing you for doing the boss right. Like that was the biggest problem with it is if you are successfully soaking every single orb before it hits the boss, you would eventually get to this horrible, terrible overlap that would cause people to wipe. And like that's not good design. Like the game should not punish you. You're exactly right. In order to fix this, what you would have to do is fail the mechanic. You would have to fail the mechanic once, and that would offset the timing of the things just enough that it would be okay. And that's just bad design. Like Croth is creative strategy in order to maximize and make the boss as easy as possible. This is just like bad design. And so it is a thing like independent of any changes to add-on or changes to any kind of encounter design philosophy. This was a thing that should have been changed the first season this dungeon appeared because it was just bad design. Like it just wasn't good. I hated Veximus. I hated Veximus the first time I fought him. I hated Veximus the last time, and I was not. The one thing about Algathar Academy coming back that I was not looking forward to was Veximus, and it makes me very happy that they've fixed this.
Yeah. So I think let's tie this all together, right? So the changes that they made to Croth, and again, we're only talking about Algathar because that's really the only experience that Scott or I have had. I haven't done any dungeons yet on beta. I'm really meaning to. I'm a little under the weather if you guys can't tell, so I haven't done a ton of gaming on beta yet. And Scott has only done Algathar. So we're going to dive into things more and probably talk about this more in future episodes. But in the vacuum of just looking at Algathar, which is a returning dungeon, which has old design philosophy that's trying to be counteracted by new design philosophy, I think we're in this really weird state because, like you had started saying initially, the packs around Veximus have a lot going on still. And we're still in this like, well, how is this playing out with our new frames and our new design philosophy and everything like that? And ultimately, maybe the feeling is not great and there should be a little lightening of that. But then you turn around and they made the changes to Croth, and that seems like it's kind of too much, too heavy-handed, and maybe we should look at that again. And then they made like a really solid change with Veximus. So there's still a lot going on to even one of the most recent returning dungeons that we're getting.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a problem that like it's very difficult when you look at this stuff of concluding what each of the changes are for and what they're serving, right? Because I think the one thing that is probably true across the board in beta right now is that the dungeons are pretty difficult. Like, I mean, you have the best players in the world like try to do 12s in decent gear. You're in like myth gear, I think. So like your gear level is pretty decent. And they're struggling to time these 12s. And part of that is just the dungeons are new, and part of that is the class designs are new, and part of it is add-ons. But I think also what is just generally true is right now the Mythic Plus is probably a bit overtuned, and maybe intentionally overtuned. Like they're that's how they do tuning is they start high and then kind of move down over time. And it's like it's very difficult to sit in here and be like, are these dungeons difficult because we don't have weak auras telling us what to do anymore, or are they difficult because they're just overtuned, or are they difficult because we're just not experienced with the dungeons yet? Like it's difficult to answer that question. It's hard. And that's going to take time, and that's going to take experience, and it's going to take the best players and everyone in between, you and me and everyone, to spend a sufficient amount of time in these dungeons with this UI, with the design, to get to a point where like, okay, my experience in this dungeon, I now know what the problem area is. It's I can't track kicks anymore, and there are too many kicks, or you've just overtuned the damage on this boss. It's too much. I can't heal this, or I just need to find a way to get better because where my cognitive load has shifted is different now. Like those, like it's just it's going to be hard, and it's not going to be a thing that's solved overnight. And so like I don't want to make excuses for anything, or but it's just like you said at the beginning of the episode, it's now like we've been in wait and see, and it's now C, but like C is not a thing that's going to happen today or tomorrow. Like that, there's a reason why this beta cycle is going to be many, many, many weeks long, because it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time for them to get the numbers. It's also going to take the time for the testers to be able to isolate if there's a problem, where the problem is. And so
Yeah.
we're 2 days in. Right now, this is day 2 of Mythic Plus being open for midnight. So
yeah, we also like a meta hasn't been established,
Sure.
which is another thing.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing is classes aren't tuned correctly,
Yeah.
right? Like they're still tinkering with tuning knobs on classes. So it's like, who knows? Like, am I struggling to heal this dungeon because Druid is undertuned? Or like, who knows? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, the thing that I would say too is like when a meta is defined, a lot of the times you bring certain classes to ignore things that are prevalent in dungeons. Think like when Mass Dispel was used widely and then that got nerfed, or DK is brought widely because they can just ignore half the mechanics that happen in any given dungeon. Like things like that really play into it too.
Sure.
So I'll be interested to see what ends up coming up out of the, nearing the end of the beta, getting closer to the launch. Because 100% what you're saying is correct. We don't know enough yet. We need to play around with it more. It's only been out for 2 days now as like the recording of this is happening. So yeah, there's not enough to say anything definitively yet. And I guess philosophy change wise, we've essentially covered everything here in dungeon changes as well. I think the only question I have is, do you think that we are still in a world? You said you watched a little bit of the raid testing. Do you think that we are still in a world where they made the classes easier so that they could make the encounters harder? Because we can't ultimately look at Mythic Plus dungeons that are returning and conclude that because it's mechanics we've seen before. Maybe Pit of Sauron we could, but outside of that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell what was going on with with the boss fights and the raid testing, so it's difficult to say that. I would need to wait and see to know that for sure.
Sure.
Sure. I don't know. I think the mythic level, like the mythic raid testing, is going to be really interesting when we get to that spot, because like a lot of the uncertainty around this is like, okay, if we need to dumb down certain levels of mechanics in order to have it in a world where you don't need weak auras to do mythic raiding, are we going to make the fights too easy? Or where is the difficulty going to fall? Because the difficulty is not going to fall in these computational needing to solve something in 3 seconds and know exactly where to stand, and like an add-on can just solve that for you. And so the window that Blizzard gives you is tiny because they know you're going to use an add-on for it. Like that's gone, right? So where the difficulty lies and that kind of stuff, I think is going to be interesting to see. But I think I would have needed to be in there testing it myself to really get a feel for how that feels. It kind of just looked like chaos. I also think the healer, like I was watching healers, of course, testing, so I was mostly reacting to what they were saying, and it feels like the vibe I got was that a lot of the healers are undertuned, except maybe for Mistweaver right now, in a raid scenario. So it's just too early to say, I guess, is my cop-out answer.
Sure. Yeah, and again, that's fair. It's been out for 2 days.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And we'll continue to give our thoughts on this as we tinker around with beta some more.
Yep.
All right, Scott. We've talked about dungeon philosophy, general philosophy, UI changes. We do need to talk a little bit about classes. I know that you have some feelings on Druid. You've kind of touched on them a little bit. But just generally speaking, I've tested out 3 DPS classes so far. I've tested out Devourer, I've tested out Survival Hunter, and I was starting to tinker around with a Mage. And so, like, starting off, I knew Mage was kind of pruned. I knew there were a lot of buttons missing from Mage. So I went into that understanding that. What I was a little surprised about is how little survival still has. So I knew that they were getting rid of some abilities, and I guess it didn't really click with me like what that meant at the time. But yeah, I have like 5 buttons to press, including my cooldown. And it's very simple. And like that's one of the classes where it's like you need to maintain like building these tip of the spear stacks and then spending them. And so like there is something that you do need to maintain and look out for and manage.
Mm-hmm.
But it is still very simple. And I don't hate it, but it does feel like there is maybe something missing. I guess is my 2 cents.
Sure.
And then Devour obviously is new, but that also has very little buttons. But Evoker had like little to no buttons when it first released as well. So,
But is it fun? I mean, that's like the big thing, right?
I enjoy it. I like the fact that you are this like ranged demon hunter with like demon hunter mobility and double jumping and stuff like that, but you're still ranged. I don't like that it's the like gimped range that they gave evokers, but I mean, I guess that's the price you pay for being an extremely mobile range character, because evokers got hit with the same thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I can't really comment on this. I've only played Resto Druid, and it feels fine. My like complexity wise, obviously, there's much less stuff to track. The number of hots I have has reduced pretty significantly. Spring Blossoms is gone. Cenarian Ward is gone. You can't even track if you're playing Wild Stalker. You can't even track your symbiotic blooms, which is interesting because there are some things that, like, I think if you throw Rejuve on a person that has symbiotic blooms on them, it does something. So it's weird that I can't track it because it seems like I would want to do that. I mean, does the class? I think the class feels good, like rotation wise. They just got rid of Thrash for cats, so I don't thrash and cat weaving anymore. I haven't actually done any testing on like. I saw all these posts of people talking about like cat weaving is dead, and I was like, I didn't see anything in the patch notes that would make me think that, but maybe they're right. I don't know. I haven't done any like damage testing to see like as a Resto Druid should I be Moonkin or cat yet. I'll need to do that eventually. My damage felt low, but like comparable to the existence on live right now. It's just like healer damage is just really really low right now, especially like early in an expansion. Like I was doing a dungeon. It's a dungeon I know, but I was doing a dungeon for the first time, and then I was probably DPSing less than I normally would. So,
Sure.
But I mean, the class feels okay. It's like it's weird not having Flourish, but I don't take Flourish on live right now. So I think the Apex talents are kind of whatever. Like my Life Bloom is very strong, but it's like very strong single target, so just put it on the tank and that's fine, I guess. Yeah, I just really don't have much to say. Like it feels fine. It still feels like Druid. I think my one complaint would be it feels like my hots don't do much healing, and then regrowth does like a lot. And it feels like wild growth does nothing. And I don't know if that's just like I just threw a build up there. I wasn't even paying much attention to it. I just like put a build together and went to do a dungeon. So part of that could be I've just picked a really inefficient build, or part of it could just be the current balance of the class. But I would like I would like the feeling that my hots are doing a little bit more. And I don't like, because I mean that's kind of on retail right now on live, like you're a regrowth spammer. Like that's what most of your healing comes from, spamming regrowth. Like you blanket your hots out there and then you just spam regrowth. I was hoping they were going to move away from that a little bit, but that's how it feels in beta as well right now.
Sure. Yeah, I want to play around with some more classes, and I want to revisit this in a couple of weeks. I might not be the right one to be talking about this though, because I generally like simpler class design. So this isn't something that's really like got me all torn up.
Sure.
So I'm enjoying it. I need to play around and see what numbers are looking like. Obviously tuning is still going to be coming in, but like do I feel like my damage breakdown is correct? I guess is the right way to look at it. Like, what is dealing the most damage for me as my survival hunter? Is it the new, what's it called now? Boomstick, which replaces the Fury of the Eagle. And currently it looks like it is, which is cool. Because you just pull out this giant like shotgun and start blasting things, which is just aesthetically amazing. I do have a question for you, Scott. Some of the Apex talents, I think that this is just going to be the theme going from the War Within onwards. But like visually speaking, with hero talents, some are winners and some are losers. Visually speaking, with the Apex talents, some are winners and some are losers.
Yeah.
Because things like, is it Brewmaster? Just has like explosions and fire tornadoes and just like random shit happening at all times, always. Warlocks have like these giant beams coming down from the fucking sky. Like, there are some that are just absolute visual winners, and some that are just like on my survival hunter. It's just like, I guess it's there. It happened. Things are happening, but
Is right. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that it's just, this is going to be a mixed bag, just like hero talents were. I don't particularly like the Resto Druid one. I mean, I think like flavor wise, Life Bloom being closer to what Life Bloom was when it was first introduced is the stacking hot that you kind of have to maintain the stacks of it. Like, I think that's neat and in a nostalgic kind of way, because I remember healing as a Resto Druid in the Burning Crusade. But like aesthetically, like gameplay wise, it doesn't really change what I do very much. Like, so basically what it does is it stacks up 3 times, and then your Life Bloom will splash a little bit on other allies near the Life Bloom target. And then every time you consume Soul of the Forest, which is the buff you get anytime you Swift Mend, your Life Bloom will like super bloom. Essentially, it'll like bloom 5 times in a row, which is great. It's cool. It's effective. But that, like, gameplay wise, that's not going to really change anything. I'm going to be keeping Life Bloom up the entire time. I'm basically going to be consuming Soul of the Forest procs like in the same way I would. Like, yeah, like you Swift Mend something, you get a Soul of the Forest proc. You can either spend that now on a juiced rejuve or a juiced regrowth. If there's damage going out, you're basically going to spend that on someone that needs it right away. And then cool, you get a little bonus healing from your Life Bloom super blooming. Cool. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I haven't really looked at much of the other healers' Apex talents recently to refresh my memory on what they are, but I will be trying out all the different healers on beta. So hopefully in a month or so, I'll have a much better feel on. I still feel like Apex talents as a design are just kind of lame.
Yeah, I agree completely.
And are we really sticking with, is this the final UI look of the Apex talent?
It seems like it, dude. I cannot believe it, but it fucking seems like it. That they're just randomly tacked onto the like spec side of your talent tree. And it's like, so weird.
It clips through the box that the hero talents are on, just a little in the corner, and like that looks like terrible.
Yeah, I cannot believe that. I thought that was the alpha design. Like, here's the first iteration. We're going to change it. Yeah. I don't know. It's even more and more like this is how it's going to stay. Yeah. It's so weird.
Yeah. It's weird because, like, I mean, this is the thing about Midnight. Like, we have player housing, which we haven't even talked about because I have not touched it at all in beta. I know it's coming out in December. So I'm basically like, why spend the precious time I have in beta testing something that's going to come out well before midnight anyway? So I just haven't touched it yet. But that's one of the big box things that is a big selling point. And essentially the other one in midnight is add-ons, like the add-on removal. Like, that's the other big, like, for the part of the game that you and I participate in most, that's the big change. Like, system wise, I mean, you have these Apex talents, but that's not really anything. So, like,
yeah,
I think it makes this weird. I'm excited for this expansion. I think a lot of people are excited for this expansion. There's a lot of people that are very terrified for this expansion, but like, if you're not a player housing person, there's not too much to like outside of just like the encounters themselves and the storyline and stuff. Like there's not too much like dramatic changing to get excited about outside of the add-on thing that we've already talked about, right? And that puts the expansion in a really weird place, because if you are excited, if you are a normal rational person that is excited about the expansion but has a little bit of concern about if they're going to be able to pull off this add-on stuff, it leaves you in this weird place where like you're not as jazzed about the expansion as you normally would be.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing once we wrapped up. I think this is part and parcel due to the fact that they did this whole like announce player housing so fucking far in advance again.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about that. I don't know if they'll do it again. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they're going to do this whole here's the next 3 expansions thing again either. Like,
yeah,
that
maybe
was
that's
awesome.
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Metzen coming back and giving us this whole spiel and like finally having him back on stage and everything. Like, it was cool. It was an amazing experience to have, but now we don't get that with the Last Titan. Like, we know it's going to be the Last Titan when the Last Titan comes out.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder if that's killing it a little bit too. Like, it's so stupid to say because it's just the name of the expansion, but the name of the expansion gives you a little bit of insight on what's going on in the expansion. And so
it's
it
not
feels
just the name. I mean, it's the theme too. Like we generally know the theme and like overarching big story stuff, which is sometimes the most hype part of an expansion announcement is like what is the aesthetic of where we're going to be spending the next 2 years in the game. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Like, I am still very excited for the expansion. I like this game. I'm excited for all the people I play this game to start playing the game again, so I can play the game with them. Like, that's the thing I am most excited for when it comes to expansion stuff. So, I'm still excited for Midnight. I have a reasonable amount of anxiety over them getting all this stuff squared away in time. But yeah, we'll see.
100%. Well, Scott, I don't have anything else that I wanted to cover today. I do want to talk about housing, but I want us to kind of be able to dig our teeth into that a little bit. So maybe that'll come out in the 0.7 patch when we start digging in to housing a little bit, actually in live. But housing and the remainder of the Mythic Plus dungeons, as well as, any other classes that we dabble around with, are the main things that are going to be coming up.
Yep.
That being said, next week is Thanksgiving in the US, so there will be and anywhere else that has Thanksgiving at the same time as the US.
I think it's just us, right?
I think so too. I think a lot of other countries do it at a different time.
Yeah, I mean, Canada does in October.
Yeah.
But we have to commemorate that time when we just horribly killed all those poor Native Americans.
Yeah. Well, that's happening next week. And so we typically record on Wednesdays, and due to traveling and everything for that, we won't be recording next week. So no episode next week, guys. Just as a heads up, we will resume after that. I'm trying to think if there was any other important call outs for today. I wanted to say there was.
I have one.
Go for it.
Everyone should go play Hollow Knight Silk Song, because that's a really good game.
Yeah, Scott just got done telling you how he wants everybody to come back to playing WoW, but also,
well, first beat Silk Song, and then come play WoW with me.
Well, and then beat Expedition 33, and
I did that already.
All right, guys. Well, that's all we have for you today. I guess my question for you guys is kind of a generic one. It's mainly kind of getting your feelings on what you're thinking about roles for Midnight. So what role are you guys most excited to see kind of shaken up? I think there's a lot of good changes that are coming to tanks. I think philosophy-wise, as long as they nail it, healers are sounding like they're going to be happy.
Healers are scared. Healers are scared right now, and I think that's very
true.
Fair.
But what roles are you guys most excited to see changes coming to in Midnight is generally the question. But as always, guys, you can contact us over at yellingintothevoidwow@gmail.com. YouTube is at yellingintothevoidwow, and Twitter/X and Blue Sky are both at Into the Void Wow.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, just do it. We are on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found. Y'all, subscribe. What are you doing?
Midnight's coming out, guys.
Yeah.
It's the Void expansion.
This is our moment.
You better be subscribed.
This is our moment.
But also, please consider liking and commenting on YouTube or Spotify or anywhere else you can do that. Helps us get more exposure, allows us to interact with you guys, which is always fun, and introduces us to new people. And it allows us to just generally continue what we're doing here. But guys, until next week, we'll just be over here yelling into the void.
Well, not next week. We're going to be yelling into the void for longer than normal.
Yeah, we'll be yelling for 2 weeks. So we'll skip next week.
I'm going to escape into the void to avoid my in-laws. So. Just kidding. I love them. They're great.